Additional content for games has been tried many times and in many different forms, whether it was the weird-looking Sonic expansion cartridge or the internet downloads we see today. It's imperative for companies to try to stretch their product as far as it can go if they want money. So the formula for DLC is pretty clear. Extra stuff for extra money, right?
Wrong!
Well, I mean, technically right. But when it comes to what can be considered extra, the lines have been blurred. DLC has a reoccurring problem of being so premeditated. I guess extra really is up to the consumer, but it doesn't seem like too many people are happy with the state of DLC, which says a lot. It's been this way for over a decade, it feels like. Back when DLC was not as common for big titles, game studios operated on the assumption that the release date was a strict deadline for what the game would and wouldn't contain. This expectation meant that they had to make the base game a full enough experience if they wanted it to have good sales and a long lifespan. The idea was that the game gets shipped out, and anything they wanted to build upon was an afterthought. New characters, new maps, new stories, and other substantial stuff normally was put aside for a sequel title with its own full experience, but sometimes trickled into the pre-existing stuff for a good deal. With the expansion content of the past, it seems most people were okay with paying for additional stuff since it took longer to be made, and the point was that it wasn't necessary to have a complete experience. But typically it made sense to buy the bonus stuff if you were a passionate fan. So many of you may be familiar with the notorious Skyrim horse armor.
This is disgusting. This is awful in every way. If I could kill it, I would. But I legally can't.
For a mere $2.50, you could give your in-game horse some shiny new armor. This couldn't be acquired with in-game achievements or points, nope, only by spending real money.
But why? Why would you do that?
It became the symbol of gratuitous and overpriced junk in the gaming space overnight. As one of the first notable incidents of paid DLC being kinda predatory, Bethesda received quite a bit of backlash for such an obvious and greedy cash grab. But just like how Apple took away the headphone jack, all it takes is for one guy to do something successfully for the industry to follow. Now, I actually think the horse armor thing was pretty innocent compared to the monster DLC can be in other places. For a set price, you knew exactly what you were getting in a game that was already complete and worth playing without the DLC. I mean, the horse skin was $250 and the game was like $60, so let me pull out my calculator here. I don't think anyone at Bethesda will tell you that the horse armor itself makes up 4% of the game, but based on price, I think it was easy enough for gamers to realize this was stupid. For whatever reason though, the completionist caveman part of the brain took over, and many gamers bought it anyway. But Bethesda didn't invent being a scumbag. Using DLC for a quick buck has been tried by plenty of other developers, some tactics creative, and others not so much. One such tactic that really makes gamers angry is on-disc DLC. This is exactly what it sounds like. The developers will package DLC to come with the game on the disc, but make it so the content can only be accessed once paid for. Whether or not this is a justified decision, it always makes gamers angry. When people discovered that Mass Effect 3 locked some of the lore, tools, and a whole ass other character behind a paywall when it was already shipped with the disc, they were livid. The same thing happened when Capcom hid 12 whole fighters and 38 character skins on the disc of Street Fighter X Tekken. People were outraged. It wasn't all bad, though. People discovered you could just open some files in Notepad++, change a few things around, and unlock the DLC for free. Great job, guys. I imagine the reason people think on-disc DLC is a terrible practice is because it indicates that you intend to nickel and dime them. Otherwise, why wouldn't it just be accessible if it's ready to go? I have to agree. I think people are okay with paying for DLC if it genuinely uses the resources it didn't have during development to make some bonus content, but this just feels underhanded. It's funny how times have changed. Before, the discs contained more content than the base game. Now they contain less. Seriously though, what is the point of buying a disc if I have to download it anyway? So on-disc DLC clearly didn't sit well with people. So, how could I repackage this so that people actually want it? Oh, I know, I'll do the exact same thing. But instead of asking for your credit card number, I'll make you buy a plastic figurine. Damn, this actually worked. Enter Skylanders, a game that utilized a little NFC tag on the bottom of a piece of plastic in order to have a playable experience. It was genius. Look how cute they are. Still a better investment than Funko Pops, which, might I remind you, don't have an NFC tag on the bottom. Either way, if you weren't too busy running from girls on the playground because they had cooties, you were buying these colorful little paperweights. Other companies weren't gonna just let Skylanders have all the fun and money, so it only took a little for Disney and Nintendo to want to make their own little figures that could be scanned. Unlike plain old on-disc DLC, there's a novelty to the whole thing, so you gotta give them a little credit there. Without amiibos, hard DK wouldn't even be a thing. What a different place the world would be. But not everyone is able to manufacture toys in order to sell extra stuff. So what's the next best thing? Making the character look like Mr. Beast. I'm not joking. Season passes are the new trendy way to keep people spending money on a game that is fundamentally the same experience. What's great about a single-player game is that you don't really miss out if you don't feel like spending money on the DLC. It's nice to get more lore or a new quest, but if you're really curious about the story, just watch the game on YouTube. Where this really sucks is with multiplayer games. We have terms like pay to win for a reason. Paid DLC, battle passes, and microtransactions are all designed to give paying customers an advantage, which makes the whole experience worse for everyone else. I used to play a lot more online games, but I just don't see the fun anymore if I have to pop in another $20 like it's a slot machine. Both mobile games and console games are plagued by this, so there is no escape. The only thing worse than paying for an advantage in a game is paying for a game in advance that is 90% DLC and 10% failed promises. With how large and complex games are now to develop, studios don't want to sit around forever to make everything for one specific release day. Roadmaps have always been around, but they have really been stretched to their limits. The process goes like this. Really polished trailer gets people hyped for the game, developers show off a really ambitious roadmap of everything that will be added and when, people pre-order and buy the game at launch for full price, and this game looks nothing like the trailer. And the campaign's not finished. And there are 2 game modes. Don't worry though, it's been 6 months, but the game should finally have split-screen multiplayer now, according to the almighty roadmap. Oh, I guess they kinda lied, and, decided it was too hard? At least the campaign will have its last chapter any minute now. Wow, this chapter was rushed, and all the cutscenes looked like Hagrid from the PS1. And also, I've waited so long I couldn't give less of a fuck about the story now. I really shouldn't have given them my money until they had something to show for it. Time to go find a different game. This trailer looks so cool! Look at the roadmap of what they're gonna do! DLC. Love it or hate it, it is not going away. It's not always a bad thing, but it's definitely a cash cow. It's always interesting to see how companies like to package additional content, and I am certainly curious what the next big thing will be. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.